So the largest organ on our body is our skin. And as we age, sometimes the skin begins to break down, and it's not uncommon for wounds to happen, especially if our loved one is spending a lot of time in bed. One of the things that has really kind of bothered me over the last several years is when a loved one may be in a skilled nursing facility and they have a wound, and it's clear that the family doesn't understand that they have options in that wound care. So today I am bringing back someone that I have had on before, Rob Stoneberger. Thank you so much for coming on board with us.
Thank you always, Julie.
Yeah, it seems like last time you came, you were in a different profession. So tell us about the move that you've made since then.
Oh, such a good move. So I've been in healthcare for a long time, dabbled in medical equipment, was just in home health, and now venturing into this. It's a great opportunity just to diversify and build up that resume and have more arsenal to provide care and help continuum of care for patients.
Yeah.
Was blessed with the opportunity to work with Florida Wound and Healing. Great group, and these are specialized nurse practitioners, and we specialize in wound care and derm. We dabble in lymphedema as well.
Okay.
But their biggest goal right now is in facility or residential at home.
Yes.
Wherever you call home.
Wherever you call home. That is beautiful.
Yeah, and we can come to them. So.
Yes, that is beautiful. So when you have someone that is bedbound, and this is usually where we'll see these types of wounds that you guys are mostly handling, although it sounds like you are doing quite a bit more these days too. So usually it's the bedbound folk that have got a wound, and it's not necessarily because you haven't been religious about all the things you need to do. Sometimes people say, oh my goodness, if my loved one has a wound, it must be because people think I'm not taking care of them. That's not necessarily the case. Sometimes it is the case, but it's not always the case. So what has bothered me over the years is sometimes in skilled nursing facilities where they don't necessarily have a lot of staff available for each person. This is where we can see those wounds come up. And then they will do wound care from someone that is in their facility that is specialized in wound care. But again, they're specialized in wound care and they're addressing the wounds of a lot of people, more than likely. They don't necessarily have the focus on one person in that building for a certain amount of time each time they come in. So I always make sure to tell people that if they feel comfortable with getting another opinion or having additional care, that it's possible. So can you talk to us about that a little bit? How is it covered? Who can get that care? Tell me a little bit about
Absolutely. And that was a great point. Through all healthcare, patient's choice, not doctor's choice, not case manager's choice. It really is patient's choice, and that's for every lane of healthcare.
Yes.
So when we were providing care for a patient within a facility, and either that facility is home or maybe just a temporary stay until they go home, services are covered. And that through our organization, it's like an outpatient. So Part B, which is your 80/20 coverage.
Okay.
Including all PPO plans.
Okay.
And so for us, the coverage is through your insurance. And unlike home health care or durable medical equipment, all we need, because we are the practitioner group, is patient demographic page, correct policy number, date of birth, correct spelling, and an address. We don't need physical orders. This is just making sure that you're in network with our group.
Okay.
We run the insurance to see if we're in network, and if we are, then we come out and provide care at 80/20 coverage. It's the same as going outpatient to a facility. It's the convenience of us coming to the bedside or to the home.
So they don't have to wait for physician's orders. If they don't have, they're not going to, most of them aren't going to have a face sheet at home.
Right.
They are going to have insurance information. Almost everybody has that. So they could call you potentially and get that started with information and just basic information, name, social security number, address of where the patient is. And I would assume that they could get services started with something that basic.
Extremely timely. Exactly that.
Yeah.
If we have a diagnosis or any type of history at all, it's helpful, but not necessary. We can assess and treat and diagnose and kind of come in and get our specialty nurse practitioners on it. And that's anything from a scratch, a little skin tear, all the way to needing skin grafts, which, down to the bone, like seeing really rough wounds.
I've seen some very deep wounds, and you can't imagine that someone could even be existing with some of the wounds that I've seen there. They can be pretty intense. And from what I understand is that sometimes you don't see much. You may just see the shadow in a skin, underneath the skin, and then all of a sudden you can come in the next day and there's this massive gaping wound.
Correct.
Which can be very painful for our loved ones. Some of them don't even feel the pain, though, from what I understand. Like the wound can be so deep.
Right.
There's been nerve damage.
Yep.
And so it's very important to have the right care coming in and addressing those issues.
Absolutely. And what I love about this group, we are an addition to the community. So we're not replacing primary care. We do not replace home health care, who is probably, if they've been involved or incorporated with that patient, they're typically in a home 2 days a week. And then the patient still has to make the appointment to either primary care or specialty, which can be taxing.
It is taxing, especially if you've got someone that's bedbound.
Yes. So in conjunction, I want to enlighten everyone that we are an addition to current care, whether through primary care, home health care, we're an addition. So if home health is coming out on a Tuesday and Wednesday, we can be there 1 day a week on one of the other days as more continuum of care for that patient.
Okay. So that brings another question. How often can you come out?
Awesome. Once a week.
Okay.
Whether it is just for the episode of that patient. If there's just a small situation that can be healed up, we can be in there, whether it's a week or lifetime of the patient.
Okay.
Again, we're not primary care, but we are specialty care, and we can be there as long as the patient needs us until something's healed or treated.
And again, I think it's important to note you are working in conjunction with loved ones and family members. So if you're in there once a week, you are training the family how to continue to care for that wound when you're not there, because you aren't going to be there 24 hours a day.
Correct.
Right.
And
so I think that's
help.
important.
It is that learning and education between family members and loved ones is a big help when you have that, for sure.
Yes, because then there is that support. So again, if you're in like a skilled nursing facility or you're in an assisted living community, they're going to be those extra hands, but you guys are experts in your field. You're coming out there to focus on the wound and not so much anything else going on in the patient's life. And I think that when we see that being brought in, we see better success with wounds.
Absolutely. The more eyes and ears, right? And when family's comfortable and everybody's on the same page, it helps. We follow up and give primary care all of our data that we have or that we're assessing.
Yeah.
So that's going to go to the primary care. The home health cares are kept in the loop with what we're doing. And it helps to manage a wound and get the results that we're looking for much quicker.
Yeah.
For sure.
Can you still come in if someone is on hospice? Can you still come in and offer that support?
That's a great question. So right now, the answer is yes, but that takes a contract with a hospice in order to get privately reimbursed from a hospice because of billing conflict. If a patient is on a service with us, per se, prior to hospice, and hospice needs to get involved, they flip to the hospice benefit, which you're full aware
which
of.
I'm well aware of.
And when that happens, that's where billing can be a conflict if we were currently there.
Right.
So having a contract with a company like yourself, with Community or someone like you guys can privately reimburse us for that specialty care. So the
Yes.
answer is yes, with it laid out correctly and everything done right.
Okay. So that is a question that you could ask your hospice provider.
Yes.
And they can help to facilitate that.
Definitely.
So where are you guys located?
That's a great question. So kind of like home health care, our nurse practitioners live geographically. So
Right.
this isn't going to be a location where everyone comes to us.
Right.
We're going to come to them, but the main headquarters is out of Ocala for our group. And we have a sister company, and that's House Call MDs. That's out of Orlando, Florida.
Oh, okay.
They're the bigger operation, and we've umbrellaed, and we're growing the
Okay.
North Florida area. Huge success. We're in with a lot of facilities, assisted living facilities and skilled nursing, and getting in there, treating patients from there, and then when they discharge
Going to the home.
out to the home,
Yes.
we can go there. And
Yeah.
not many companies can do that, but we can, and that's what
Which
I
is
think separates
wonderful.
us a little bit. So,
Yeah, that's great. So if someone wants to find a wound care company that's kind of like yours, how should they do that? How should they go about that?
excellent question. And really, this is going to be for all healthcare needs. If the patient has an insurance policy and a card,
Yes.
on the back of that card is their specific customer number
Okay.
for their policy, not a generic. If you have Blue Cross Blue
okay.
Shield and just call Blue Cross Blue Shield, they may not have the. If
Right.
you call that number with your policy number, and you ask your insurance who is in network for wound care,
That's a good idea.
they will give you those immediate in-network providers. The same goes for home health care. The
Yep.
same goes for medical doctors and or equipment to get the specific providers in your area that can provide care.
Okay. And then, you're going to do your due diligence when you find a company that does provide wound care, and you're going to research them online, and hopefully you're going to pick a good company. You want
right.
a good, solid company.
That's right. And word of mouth is huge, right? That's
Word
what
of mouth is huge.
So look at reviews, see what everybody's saying. I can proudly say we have great reviews, great company, and
Yeah.
I'm sure there's many out there, but I'm confident that our group really has a grasp on what they're doing.
Yeah.
We see many, many, many patients across the board. And coverage area, we are in so many counties. So Lake City all the way out to Putnam County, all the way out to Tri-County, Gainesville,
Yes.
Alachua, and Ocala. So we do reach a broad spectrum, and we are in Florida primarily right now.
Yeah, great. That's awesome. I always love to share stories. This one is kind of it's kind of hard to share a story because in wound care there aren't probably that many stories that we can share. But I had a dear friend growing up in high school, and she showed me pictures from her mom. Her mom was a diabetic and had an amputation, and the wound was probably one of the worst I had ever seen. But with very diligent care, they were able to heal that wound. Her mom is up and puttering around and happy as can be, and ruling the roost where she currently lives.
Good.
And it was just a great story of just seeing what great wound care and persistence can do. So,
I love that.
yeah, so there's probably not too many wound care stories that I can share, but that one I was very excited to be able to share, because man, when we saw that wound, I did not think there was a way to help her to get through that, and it was just a miracle. So
they
and
really
great
are.
care.
The specialty nurse practitioners that do this have a gift, and seeing with this group how they handle patients has been very impressive. Slightly touching on insurance, and not to go too far out of the way, but for our rural communities,
Yes.
for the patients that is an hour commute to a hospital, For patients that are out in those
Oh, yeah.
areas that have a harder time receiving care like this,
Right.
do know that we are able and willing. If we are out of network, this is something big for the group to know, or for everyone watching. If you are out of network and you are in a rural area, don't have an in-network provider nearby, we will do the due diligence to call that insurance, let them know that there's no in-network providers around, and if they're willing to flip us to an in-network rate,
Oh,
we can go out to provide care for the patient, and it has been a success.
that is great.
So I want to make sure that everyone knows that just because you have a lesser insurance plan, or one that may not be as, financially beneficial as others,
Right. Yes.
we are still willing to do what it takes to get out there if insurances are willing to help.
Oh, that's a wonderful help. I am in some of those very rural counties now, in that Tri-County area, and there's so much need because they are growing so rapidly,
Right.
and they have a lot of people at retirement age. And so sometimes that brings about more of these kinds of wounds that need special healing.
Absolutely.
So, Rob, thank you so much for coming today. If there's anything else that you were thinking that you just really wanted to share, is there anything else?
Just to make sure to keep your eyes and ears open, if you, sometimes these wounds are in places under clothing that
Right.
the patient doesn't even know is there.
Right.
So just for everyone to keep an eye on things. If there is a wound, go over it with your primary care physician, that there's something there. And just right now, this is a really big learning thing for a lot. I've realized that our specific job in going out and what we're doing now is kind of
Right.
newer to the industry.
Yes, I
And
think so.
getting everyone on board and educating that we are available to work in conjunction with primary care. So if you mention something like this to your primary care physician and they go, "What are you talking about?"
Gotcha.
Please reach out to me. My information's available for anyone. And I can go in, speak to the physician's offices, and typically we're a godsend. We take a lot of the
Yeah.
paperwork off their plate, and we really do provide that specialty care, which
Yes.
lightens the load for them. So
Hey, you just reminded me of something too, especially if you have someone that is in cognitive decline, or maybe you have somebody with diabetes that actually can't see, like the feet. A lot of times that's where some of those wounds can be, and they don't even know. So, I was recently watching something, and they said if you're in your primary care physician's office for that annual checkup or that twice a year checkup, and they're not taking off your socks, that's a heads up, because they need to be looking at those feet. They need to be looking in the underarm areas and other places where sores may hide that need to be addressed.
that is so true. And again, just to touch base. So wound care, we're here. Skin care, dermatology care, fungal, rashes, sunburn, any type of burns.
Oh, okay.
So anything skin related, wound or dermatology, is what we specialize to help and treat.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, Rob.
So welcome.
If you have not liked this podcast, if you have not subscribed, I would ask that you do so now, and make sure you share this podcast. There's probably someone out there that is at some point going to deal with some sort of a wound or a skin issue that can benefit. So thank you so much for coming, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one.